All right, let's take this question real quick. How do we make sure the information provided by the vendor are accurate during a risk assessment? And what we've said is that most of the time we need to do our due diligence. An example, we need to follow up with previous customers they've worked with. And most customers will be transparent and tell you their experiences most of the time. The other thing is that at the public space, public domain, you can check if there are negative news, press release about this particular vendor or not. So those are public information, but it's on you and I to make sure we do that due diligence in general. All right, let's another one. Vendor evaluation, key areas, etc. I agree. So today we'll do some vendor evaluation based on their response. Most times people would not make up unverifiable random numbers, especially those that are in the public domain. However, I'll be forced to tell you also that sometimes people would exaggerate what they have. So don't take it in face value that, okay, because you said yes, it is yes. You can follow up on any area that they don't give you sufficient evidences. For example, if I ask you, do you have a SOC 2 report? All right. SOC 2 report is supposed to be independent to show that an independent body performed the test on your security controls. If you come up with a fake report with fake name of the company, I can check with that company also to see if you actually, because they should give me contact to show, this is the company that have created or prepared this documentation. If we need to follow up, we should be able to see, okay, this guy's prepared this information or not. So it's harder to make up stuff like that, especially if you're a business and we are doing B2B, because what's spread around. If you're a jerk as a business and everybody knows that you're making up stuff, you're going to lose out because nobody's going to do business with you. The business world is not too big. So they will know at some point. You can't get away with it for too long. You would be busted, you know. All right, somebody say fact check the vendor. Yeah. Let's another one. Um, all right. Is there a system for background check of the vendor? Okay. There are many tools out there people use for potential background check. Mostly they are just in the public domain. People just go out there and publicly check if there are any, negative news there. There's BBB. Yeah, you're right, Ibrahim. So this is more Bureau for, I've forgotten the full name now, but it's a portal that you can see people's review and accreditation of that particular organization. So you can even easily test. People use things like Trustpilot, so many other platform out there just to kind of check where that vendor stands in the public domain. Here's another one here. Okay, yeah, Better Business Bureau. Yeah, that's it. BBB. Yeah, Better Business Bureau. For IT vendors like BBB, most of those IT vendors, the the thing about IT vendors is, there are many tools out there that helps you to compare different solutions out there. But because of there's so much every day. People are building something every day, and there's so much changes within 3 months. Too many changes, always happening. So you can see some tools that can do vendor comparison in general, but you still need to do your own independent due diligence as a company. Yeah, security scorecard is equally good. Now, they were part of vendors I managed in the past. And I'll tell you what the challenge I've seen with security scorecard, for example, is a lot of people complain that if you check any company with security scorecard, it will be a disaster. So they feel their the perception is they are pulling a lot of public information that they filter and eventually create a false sense of urgency so that people a little panic so that people can use their tools. That's what the perception of the industry is. And with some of my clients, they always make that comment. So they feel, well, I guess, think about it. If every time all you cry is problem, problem, and internally they know it's not really a problem, so they just believe it's a marketing ploy that you guys are using it to get customer because you create this panic and urgency so that people just come into your ecosystem. So, but people use them a lot. It's just that's the perception I've seen people talk about security scorecard. And the funny thing, I remember then. Uh, so my organization is a huge consulting firm, right? A global one, French company, and we were using security scorecard to assess vendors, right? Now, guess what? When we ran the security scorecard on ourselves, we were equally horrible in terms of the scorecard for us. So now you're looking and saying, seriously, guys, I mean, under what ground? So yeah, that's the perception. It doesn't mean it's real, but that's the perception. Okay. All right. So that's another one. Somebody said I was asked this question in an interview. All right. Okay. That's another one. What do you think? What do you think is the best event? Chill out. All right. Let's talk about getting to the topic. Then we can start looking at questions and throw that stuff in your group and you'll talk about that in your own group. Now, remember again, if they ask you about network segmentation as a third party risk analyst, if they ask you what's different between static and dynamic code scanning, um, that's not really your role, to be honest, as a third party risk analyst. So you can talk about it, but you're not the one scanning anything, you know, in general. That's another one. What do you think is the best way when you're developing to segment? What I use when you to understand different zones. Okay. So it depends on the context of that question. For Because if you are talking about network segmentation, that's a different monster entirely. So, you know, every environment is different. Is it OT? Is it IT? And segmentation simply means how do you partition your network. So if one part of your network is compromised, the other part can still that part can be isolated and other part can be operational. So isolate that part of the network. We try and recover and contain that part of the network that is segmented. Um, for the number three, you're not the one scanning, you know. So there are tools they use for scanning in general, but you are not the one scanning. So I'm not gonna. I don't think that's not really your role, your job. You are not doing any scanning of a network of your third party. Because think about it, why would your third party give you access to be scanning their own network? You want their result to show they are scanning it, but it's not your business to go and scan a third party's network. So you're not going to do that. All right, cool. Um, all right, okay, cool. Let's move on. All right, so what we're going to do again, all I needed to do own the scenarios. Let's recap yesterday real quick. So what did we do yesterday? Believe it or not, you just acted in the role of a third party risk analyst yesterday. You were reviewing specific documentation. I asked you intentionally to look at those documents and tell me one area you think there's a gap. Now, it doesn't mean there's a gap. I'm just forcing you to critically think and look at that document. That's the intent. Because what will happen is that when you're doing your vendor assessment, it might be yearly review of your vendor. So an existing third-party vendor that you're dealing with already, you might have to request those documents yearly. So you're looking at those documents, you're taking a look and making a judgment call if there is a gap in that document. That's what you're doing really. At the end of the day, you're checking and saying, okay, does this thing make sense? Is there an area or risk that can impact your own organization? That's what you're doing. If I ask that, do they have a security awareness training they are doing? And I check and I realize, oh, wait a minute, they're not doing, for the last 1 year, they didn't do a training. So I know that's a problem. I'll start calling it out. If I check and say, do we have incident response plan in this company? Oh, okay. They don't have it. Okay. I take a note. Do they even have a list of policy and procedure for tech, for IT? And I check, oh, they don't have it. Those are the things I'm calling out. Do they have a SOC 2 type 2 report? Oh, they had last year, but they've not done one this year. Okay. So that means I may follow up and say, oh, well, they'll tell me, well, they're currently working on one. They're almost done. They'll give it to me next week. Okay, that's fair. So I know they're working on it. But if you tell me that, well, we stop doing the SOC 2 type 2 report. Okay. Let me ask. Let me ask you. Let's think together. Okay. So if I tell you, we know that because you are a service provider to me as an organization. So I know I'm liable to your mess if anything happens. SOC 2 type 2 report is a report that independently says your control is fine or it's not fine. It's independent, so I rely on it. A certain year, last year, you've been my vendor for the last 5 years, but last year specifically, you reached out and said, I asked for the same SOC 2 type 2 report, which historically you just gave to me. And you told me, sorry for this year that passed, we did not have one.